Hey Trippers, today I'll be talking to Chris Rubio, host of the Rubio Method and Decades. Rubio is also the founder of Rubio Long Snapping. Chris and I are going to talk about, Chris, that was weird. I never call him Chris. He doesn't like that. He goes by Rubio. Rubio and I are going to talk about current events, politics, and really how we're keeping our sanity about us with all this craziness that's going on in the world today. I'm going to share a little bit about how I shifted my focus from fitness to finances, something that my coach and I discussed. I'm going to share kind of the process we went through and how it's helped me. I'm also going to talk about cultivating positive thoughts, and there's a practice that I'm going to discuss called the popcorn exercise. So I'm going to talk about that. What else do we got today? Oh, yeah, I'm going to share my trip to the Hotsprings earlier this year. I was looking for a place to discuss that would promote, well-being, mental health, things like that. And I remembered, earlier this year I was at the Hotsprings. Maybe I can talk about that. And lastly, I'm going to talk about RFK's story on ayahuasca, and I'm going to lead that into my own experiences. I'm going to share an experience that I had on DMT, and I'm going to share an experience that I had while on magic mushrooms. So all of that on episode 18 of Tripping Through Transformation. Balance, drop the beat.
Balance makes it bang.
Hey man, Rubio, welcome back to Tripping Through Transformation.
What's going on, Guy? You got a bad picture of me. That's like the one side where my ear looks like it's. I swear to God, I think my mom, when I was younger, like pinched my ear a lot because I can't tell if it's this ear or this ear. One of them looks like broken at the top.
I have that too. That's weird.
You?
Wayne Gretzky has that too, and I always figured, I must be good at hockey or something. I just failed to expand on those skills.
Yeah. So we must be the great ones.
Yeah, I do. I have like a little chunk there, but
yeah. Is it this one? Can you see? I can't see my own ear, but I don't know if it's this one or this one, but one of them, it's considerably, I think it's this one. It's considerably.
Go back and look now.
Yeah.
I don't know. But thanks for coming on for a second time. I wish I could say you're the first repeat guest, but Sub 60 beat you to that, man. So
that's that's partial credit. That's not a full credit.
Partial credit?
Yeah, because
that one went right over my head.
Don't worry, it went over Sub 60's head as well.
I have to keep the height jokes limited because I'm not much taller than he is. So, I only get a couple digs and that's it.
How tall are you?
I say 5'6", but I've been measured huh?
But isn't average height 5'8"?
I don't know. My dad was 5 foot. My mom was 5'3". I feel like I'm a giant amongst my family, so I'm happy.
Yeah, man, you are.
Yeah. French people are known for being very tall, I don't think. So
do you have any brothers or sisters?
No.
You're like me, an only child.
Yeah.
Your parents stopped at greatness.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So like I was saying, thanks for coming back on. I wanted to mention, I've been watching your show for a while now, and you've gone through quite a transformation yourself. I've seen your show evolve. I mean, I had the chance to work and do some editing for your show, and you've gone from kind of talking about, your own personal stories and having your minute with Monahan and things like that to now you're basically just covering Trump and what's going on in the world.
I'm trying to, my show has gone through a transformation, not to steal your title, but yeah, it's gone through a transformation. And it's one of those things that I was always told, it's going to take it 50 shows to kind of find your groove. And now later today, I'm going to be filming a live show that's going to be number 76. And so I'm still kind of finding my groove, trying to figure out which one I want. I started with interviews and with Monahan and things like that, and I was just too overbearing. And it was one of those things that even with the interviews, I was waiting to hear their answers so I could talk again. And I think that's the only child in me, where I just, okay, well, it's my turn to talk now.
You want
let's
to be
get
the
going.
center of attention. That's it.
Yeah. Good thing my wife can't hear you right now. She would say 100%. Yeah, but it's advancing, and I'm just trying to do like current events, and I'd like to do like a hodgepodge of pop culture. But as you know, and I send you memes all the time and articles, pop culture has become politics, and politics have become pop culture. It's just unbelievable how everything is just intertwined. And I try not to talk so much about politics, but there's just so much out there, and it's like lobbing it up to me at the net. How can I not comment on this?
It never stops. I find it overwhelming. But before we get into that, because I do want to get into recent events and politics and stuff like that, but before we get there, I kind of want to know, like, what led to that transition? Were you just kind of looking for your groove, or is this something that happened naturally, or were you always kind of aiming to go that route? Like, what led to that transition?
It just became a little bit easier for me. It was one of those things that I could rely on myself. Storytelling, I'm pretty damn good at it. My biggest issue now is trying to find non-political topics, like I just said, and just slowing down, because I get so excited talking about something that my voice speeds up a lot. And I'm like, whoa, slow down a little bit, Rubio, because I talk fast normally. Because when I'm talking like this sounds normal to a lot of people. To me, it sounds like I'm talking through pudding. It's just, I feel like I'm talking so slow, and it's like, good God, let's speed it up, Rubio. So it's just kind of finding its own way. And so, my show today, I will actually have a couple guests that are going to be part of my segments of the show, where like working hard is not enough. I'm going to talk to someone. Confidence is the key. I'm going to talk to someone. And so it's my show. I do what I want. I think the easiest thing for me, though, was now I've gone to live shows, and that's a lot easier for me for some reason. I know it's not for a lot of people, but for me it is, because there's less thinking involved. And the less I think, which sounds stupid, but I don't want to overthink things. And like my first 10 shows, I really charted them out and did this and did that. And then I felt like I was trying to follow a script, and it was just too much. And I felt like I was an 8th grade play or something. And now it's just, if I say something stupid, I say something stupid. And, it's one of those things that I think that's what kind of lets people enjoy the Rubio method a little bit, is because that I am just your average jackass, and I talk like I talk. I am an acquired taste. Either you're going to love me or you're going to hate me. There's usually no middle ground.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. I really enjoy watching your show. So I hope
thank you, man.
Yeah, I hope that means something to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, the only lives that I've done really is on Decades, and I like that it's just, as it is, whatever comes out, comes out. Mm-hmm. But for me, I like this recorded version for me, just because it gives me a little bit more flexibility. I feel like, I don't know, I don't have to be as prepared.
Yeah, I get it.
Because if you're doing live, you got to have like your questions. You got to have something to go. You can't just kind of fly off the handle, right?
Well, yeah, I kind of do. And but I'm that guy. Like, I have no problem going to a bar or sitting down with someone, or say you and I, we're going to go have a meal out in Canada or Idaho where I live. And I'll just say, like, okay, tell me your best 5 foods that you want to eat for the rest of your life. And health doesn't matter. And I'll strike up a conversation like that, and I'll just see where it goes. And then, you'll start talking about something about pineapples, and I'll be like, hey, have you ever seen a pineapple tree? Or something like that, where it's just a little bit more genuine in my book. And I like to be the quote unquote bigger jackass of the group, to see like, okay, let's have the conversation, see where it goes. Who cares? Because then I can see, do we agree? Do we not do we disagree? And I'm okay with both. Like, me, I love to agree with people, and I love to have an argument with someone or to have a discussion.
Yeah, 100%. So you just have different skills than me. I'm not there yet. I'm still getting comfortable just to be on camera and things like that, and interviewing people. So
yeah, but your skills surpass me 1,000% with your preparation and your editing. That's why I was like, Gee, here's 5 hours of footage. See what you can make out of it. And you throw me back all these edits, and I'm like, Jesus, these are phenomenal. Holy hell. There's no way I can do that. There's no
Appreciate that. I'm going to actually play one at the end of our interview for the audience. But because I've been seeing them playing on like MDN Chef and stuff. And I was like, hey, I did that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, dude, you got a real talent on that. Trust me.
I appreciate that. So since you started kind of covering current events and stuff, what's been the craziest story you think you've covered so far? Right? How do you pick one?
I mean, you can literally just get a goldfish bowl and put 100 stories in there and grab one, and they'll all be crazy. I mean, from the president almost being assassinated twice in America in 55 days.
Yeah.
And it's like not even a top story. Like the story when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock was in the media longer than, El Trump turning his head, getting his ear almost blown off and his head blown off. That was in the storyline for like 72 hours. In this last one on Sunday, it's already gone. Like it was in and out in, I don't even want to say hours. I want to say minutes. And it's like, where are we at? Or just the fact that Kamala was basically just like Joey B was the president for 3.5 years, and everyone on the right was saying, dude, this guy can't speak. He's 112 years old. He doesn't know where he's at. He's wandering off stage. And everyone on the left was saying, oh, he's totally competent. He's the best. And then he goes to this debate. He basically shits the bed. And everyone's like, oh, my God, we didn't know how bad he was. What are you talking about? Like literally a week before, George Clooney had a $35 million fundraiser and says he's the sharpest he's ever been. That debate comes out and he says, yeah, I made a mistake. He wasn't that sharp. Well, so either you're lying or you're stupid. There's no other way to say it. Like you're either lying or you're dumb. You got to choose.
And there was that guy, I don't remember the name of the newscaster, but he's basically saying like, this is the sharpest Biden we've had ever. And if you don't agree with me, screw you or F you or whatever. I'm like,
Joe Scarborough.
Who's buying that? Who's buying that?
And that's what I'm saying. Either he's lying or he's incredibly ignorant. There's just no other answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I follow a little bit of what's going on in the States. I follow a lot of what's going on in Canada. And like in the world, right? So now you've got pagers blowing up in Lebanon. Russia is like doing nuclear testing, and they're like, holy crap. Like, do you think people are becoming desensitized to what's happening in the world, or do you think they're overwhelmed? They're like, that's a lot of information, man.
I think they're 100% becoming desensitized. I mean, when you have the president of the United States almost get his head blown off 2 times in 55 days, and it's not even a lead story. Like my small town newspaper, I subscribe to it just to see what people are getting locally. Yeah. It wasn't even on the first section of the paper. It was the second section. And like, is this a joke? Like this should be plastered on the front page of president almost assassinated, ... again. But it's just one of those things of, oh, let's just move on.
I've talked to people about the second assassination attempt, and I've had some looks kind of like, yeah, but was he really almost like, come on, the guy didn't even get close to him. And I'm like, man, Secret Services found the guy in time. Like if Trump would have made it to the next hole, he might have got shot. Like you can't downplay this. Like this was a serious thing. But some people are just kind of brushing it off, right?
And he had a rifle with a scope. Okay, I'm a beginning hunter when I moved out here from California. 300 yards with a scope is nothing. Like as a hunter, you're begging for that shot. I mean, an average, a below average shot can get that if you're looking for a body shot. All right. If you want to, hit just his left eye, that's obviously a better shot. But a scope, he's got it mounted up against the fence. 300 yards is nothing. And we got to remember, he was about to putt and go to the next hole. He was going to be like within 50 yards of the guy. I can throw a rock and hit someone.
Yeah. So what do you think happens if either Trump does end up getting shot or if he ends up winning the election? Like either scenario, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, number one, I think the media will absolutely love if he wins the election. They'll say they hate it, but their ratings have never been higher than 2016 through 2020 because it was just Trump, and they just fed the machine all day long. They'll act like they're pissed, but their ratings and their dollars will go up. Okay, because right now you've got people like, say, Megyn Kelly, some other big podcasts like the Rubio Method, of course, where they have more viewers than CNN and MSNBC and Fox combined. So that like the mainstream media is actually dying. Mm-hmm. And I think that group of humans that watch it that are just aged, say like 60 and up, just because that they grew up with Walter Cronkite, and the news is the news and you got to trust it. And even though you can show them actual videos or pictures from other things that are saying, no, this is not the news, like you're just being fed something, they still don't understand it because they don't understand how podcasts work. They don't understand how X, formerly known as Twitter, works and things like that. On that note, that's if he survives. Because I would be shocked if he makes it to the election, just because they're going to keep trying to take him out. Why would they not? They know that he's their biggest enemy, so to speak. He's their biggest threat to democracy, so to speak. So it's one of those things. They are not going to go down lightly. I mean, I'd be shocked if he makes it. Put it that way. I want him to survive. I obviously want him to be the next president, President 47 and 45. Do I think he'll make? I don't. I honestly don't.
Do you think that the rhetoric and all that's being talking about is the biggest contributor to this, or do you think the Democrats are on the down low, kind of they have hand in this, or what do you think is causing all these people to go after him?
100%. It's the rhetoric. 100%. Because does Trump say stupid things? 100%. Did Trump get things done? 100%. He's the kind of guy that's kind of a jackass, but he gets things done. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining to someone else that, like, okay, so say, Guy, you're an agent, or you're a professional hockey player. All right, you're a college hockey player. You're going to go professional. Would you like me as your agent, who's kind of an ass, kind of mean, but gets things done? Like, I'm guaranteeing you $10 million a year is your contract. Or would you like, say, a nicer person, John Smith, who's a nice guy, really nice guy. Everyone likes him, but he's only going to guarantee you $750,000 a year. Which guy would you go to be your agent?
Yeah, well, the guy who's got the skills to pay the bills, man.
The bills, and that's what El Trumpo is. He's just the big bad agent for the United States of America. I mean, that's the thing here. Is he the most couth human being? Good God, no. Okay, but he ran the country like a business, and that's why all the career politicians do not like him, because you have so many career politicians that have been in office for so long, and they're just riding that wave of life. And it's one of those things. It's very similar to when I was a teacher. I used to be a sixth grade history teacher for 8 years, and the first year teachers, second year teachers, they might not know how to do everything, but good God, they are full speed ahead. They'll try anything. They are gung-ho. Then you've got, after year 3 of teaching, you get what's called tenured in America. Okay, tenured means you basically are on contract now. You can't get fired. You have to like punch a puppy in the head in front of the principal or something like that. Yeah. And you would see those older teachers where they're just ride the wave. They're putting the same exact worksheets out that they themselves have given out for 15 years. And they're not even like the same reliability. They're not even correlating right anymore. But hey, I know I can give this worksheet out. The kids can work for 45 minutes straight. I could sit and I could read my book, do what I want to do. And I'm dialed in. I phoned it in. I don't have to worry because you can't fire me. And that's what so many of these people in Congress, you've got Nancy Pelosi, these people that have been in there for like 50, 60 years. It's like, holy hell, Joey, be alone. You're 80 years old, dude. You know what I want to be at 80 years old? I want to be sitting on a dock, having a sip of a cocktail, maybe having some ice cream, petting my dog, talking to my family. That's it. I don't want to be working at 80. If you do, if you have the world's greatest job, but take a break, man. Take a break.
Not to get off topic here, but do you think that maybe his family were pushing him to stay in power because, whatever's happening with his son and whatnot, he might be getting into trouble, right, legally? So, hey, Dad, you should stay there. So if I get charged, you can pardon me,
1,000%, because there's no way. I mean, if me, just the layman, is watching him and I'm looking around, and it's not even the thing going up the stairs when you fall going up the stairs, which is impressive. I don't even know how you do that. Or you fall on stage, or you get lost, and like they always say, he looks like a Roomba just trying to find a spot to go to, waving to no people, handshaking no one, not knowing his sister from his wife, things like that. Yeah. It's just the fact that they had to have saw it. We've all had family members, at least I know, where they get older and they're not as sharp. And it's, okay, Grandpa, let me push you into the corner. Here's an Afghan for your knees. Here's some iced tea. Here's a cup of, Yoplait yogurt. Just don't say anything rude or racist. Just go sit over in that corner, bud. You've ran the race. You're 85 years old. No one's expecting you much. So you can't tell me that his family didn't see something and go, hey, let's just ride this wave.
Yeah, I don't know how they're. Yeah, I'm baffled too. I don't know why they're pushing him to stay in power, but I don't. Maybe we'll never know.
I think you answered the question.
Yeah, stay kind of on the whole election topic. How do you feel about Taylor Swift promoting Kamala and the influence that she might have? Because I have something I want to add to this, but I want to hear what you have to say about her influence and stuff.
I think she has the right to choose whoever she wants. I think I saw a great meme. Very funny that the person who's made billions of dollars off writing songs about choosing the right man has just endorsed Kamala. like all of her songs are, oh, I chose the wrong person. I did this, I did that. Woe is me. And now she's choosing Kamala. I mean, it's one of those things that in her letter that just happened to go out right after the debate, she said she was all about Tim Walz and all about what the LGBTQ stuff and all that stuff. And that's, more power to you. Think that you want, but then dive deeper into that. And so you like Tim Walz, so you support him during COVID, setting up a snitch line where people in his community could call and say, hey, Guy, he's outside on his porch. He's not supposed to be. Send the authorities over. Or, he's the one that also petitioned and got tampons in boys' bathrooms in high school.
Tim, yeah.
Stupid. Like that's one of those things that's so dumb that you just look and go, what are you talking about? Like, it's just dumb.
Yeah. I bring this up because, for most of my life, I refrained from voting because I felt I didn't care about politics. I wasn't informed enough about politics. And I actually felt that by voting, I might actually be contributing to a worst scenario, right? And now you've got Taylor Swift, who's got her own personal opinion. She's one individual, but now she puts it out to, I don't know how many fans she's got, millions. And all of a sudden, these people take her voice and like, oh, well, that's how I'm going to go now. Do you think these people are voting because they're informed on the parties and their platforms, or do you think they're just going along with an idol that might not have their best interest at heart? Because she's a billionaire. She doesn't care about you starving and not being able to pay your rent and shit. So
when do you think was the last time Taylor Swift filled up a car with gas? Probably a decade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
She's got 1 or 2 private jets. She emits more carbon, and she's all about climate, but she emits more carbon per year than like half the country with just their cars. So, I'm okay if you support someone, but as long as you're not a hypocrite. When you're a hypocrite and it's like, oh my God, I'm so about climate change. Hold on, let me get in my private jet. It's like when they always go to talk to these climate control seminars and they all take private jets there. Just do it over Zoom. Like if the climate's that big of a deal to you, just do it over Zoom. Why does everyone have to get together with their private jets? Like that's one of those things that, to me, like I said, it's just stupid.
Yeah. So what do you see happening now in the next few weeks while this plays out until the election? Like what's going to happen?
Well, I think you see J.D. Vance and El Trumpo. I think they both keep going out on the circuit and just hitting as many different spots as possible, whether it's burgers and Bitcoins like El Trumpo did yesterday, or I think they're both going to Springfield, Ohio a couple of days from now, or Aurora, Colorado, where the whole migrant situation is taking over and just kind of going to the fruit of the heart of the land, basically. And then you've got, I think on my rundown with Rubio today, J.D. Vance and El Trumpo have done 72 live or published interviews, and 15 of those were press conferences. Kamala and Tim Walz have done 7 and no press conferences. Right. So they're obviously trying to hide them speaking. If I'm trying to vote for someone and I'm pro Kamala, let's go Kamala. I want to know what you're about. And the fact that they can't do live press conferences, and I get it, okay, she's an independent Black woman, yay, rah, 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 I got it. And then her first sit-down interview, she brings Tim Walz with her. Like, dude, you're not really, saying that you're an independent Black woman if you have to bring a white dude with you. Yeah. Like, I just don't understand. I could have done that interview.
Well, I don't think she really needs to speak, because she lets celebrities like Taylor Swift, and was it Megan Stallion or whoever, like, she's letting the celebrities do the talking for her. So,
well, she's not only the celebrities, the mainstream media. I mean, if you saw that debate where she didn't get fact checked one time, and El Trumpo got fact checked 7 times, and you're just watching and going, okay, so she says, oh, and he said many fine people, and that's been debunked like 1,000 times. Or it's going to be a bloodbath if I get elected. He was literally talking about the auto industry. Or 5 cops were killed at January 6th. No cops were killed. Like, you can fact check that all you want, but these are easily verifiable things that the moderator said nothing. And the one guy, was it David Muir? He asked her about guns, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm pro gun, blah blah blah. I even own a gun." Nice try. He literally did an interview with her a year ago where she said yes, she wants to ban guns. He could have just said, "Hey man, I did an interview with you a year ago where you were the complete opposite. So tell me why you switched."
I feel the only topic they did that about was fracking, right? I think they brought up that she used to have a different view on fracking, and now she's pro fracking before she was anti fracking. But that's like the only thing they really brought up where she flip flopped, from what I remember.
Yeah, but and then they didn't ride her on it. Like, okay, she says, "Oh, my, what did she say? My views have always been my views." What the hell does that mean? My head has always been my head. Yeah, no kidding. But what does that mean? That's why I don't like the moderators. I would love to be a moderator because I'd be like, yeah, that's cool. You didn't answer the question. So tell me why your views have changed. Tell me. Go ahead. Well, my views have been this. Okay, but yet again, stop. Why did they change? Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, I believe people have the right to change their minds if new information comes about and like, oh, I didn't see it that way before. Yeah, it makes more sense. But yeah, it seems to me like she was kind of just, I don't know, catering to the people she was working for, going with their policies and just, or maybe she does believe it. I don't know. But she's definitely flip-flopping now. And to me, that makes her untrustworthy. Is that a word? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you would not trust her. Yeah, 100%. But see, the mainstream media doesn't show that. They just show, oh, this is her belief. Like, okay, like she wants $6,000 child tax credit. JD Vance said 5,000 literally 2 weeks before that. Or when she said no taxes on tips, and El Trumpo said it 3 months ago. And when he said it, it was, oh my God, this is terrible for the economy. When she did it, it's, hey, this is the best thing since sliced bread. But if you're only getting mainstream media, you don't know the difference. I can't even tell you how many times I send things to a lot of my liberal friends and family where I say, this is what actually was said. And they're like, that's edited. I go, no, it's not. What you saw was edited.
So is most of the mainstream in the States Democrat? Like, it seems to me like Fox News is the only one that kind of supports the Republicans.
Fox News used to be much more right wing, but now it's middle to left. I would say barely right at all. So I would say 99.999% of them are. And that's fine. You know, they control the media, but it's one of those things that you have to, especially nowadays with how easy it is to get content, you have to do your own research. If you're not doing your own research and finding out other bits of information, like if you hear one story, that's great. But if you hear that story over and over and over and over again, and you're going with people that you trust, whether it's a podcast or a blogger or independent news journalist that's not getting paid by quote unquote the man, that's when you kind of lean into it a little bit more and say, okay, now I get it. Now I understand what they're doing here.
Yeah. And when you don't do your own research, you know, when Trump mentions things like, oh, they're eating the cats and the dogs, you might laugh at that, but then you do a little bit digging, like, hey, man, that was really happening, right?
Yeah. When you bring over a third world country, you become a third world country. And it's one of those things like, trust me, I live in a town of about 40,000 people, same as Springfield, Ohio. If you dropped 20,000 migrants in here from Haiti, my town would lose their crap. It would be wild because that's, what is it, a third? I'm not a mathematician, but that's like a third of the people at this point coming in because now your population is 60,000, there's 20. Yeah, so it is a third. And it's one of those things that these people don't have the same values as you. It's nothing against them. It's just they've been raised differently. So whether they're into voodoo, which they are, or their average IQ is 67, which it is, like that's not good. You don't just keep your front door open and say, hey, just come on in, you know, and everything's great. I don't need to, you know, vet you or fact check you or anything. Just whatever you believe, you believe. No, man, you come into our country, you got to understand what we're about. You just can't bring in, okay, all of a sudden, here's what you guys do in your country. And if that's so great, you can feel free to stay in your country and more power to you. And if, well, our country stinks, well, then build it up. Yeah. Build it up.
I think we have the same issue in Canada. I think it was the premier of Ontario, and I guess the premier would be the equivalent of like a governor in the States, maybe. Correct. But he had to go on the news and tell people like, "Hey, folks, please don't be pooping on the beach." Did you hear that? No. Yeah. So you know, we have people from India or whatever, and they just like squat and just let her go, right? But we also have like. But we also have like a huge homeless issue right now because we're bringing in all these people from other countries, but we don't have anywhere to put them. So what are they going to do? We just don't have the infrastructure for them. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing or we're not providing them the needs, like with what they need, but it's definitely an issue over here too.
Well, I think it is a cultural thing. And I think it's one of those things that it's cool to be nice. I want to be nice to Guy. He lives in Canada. I want to be nice to Guy. I need, let's just say Canada is 4 doors down from me. Okay? You're on my street. I need to clean up my own house. If I've got the drains are, broken, the vents are leaking water, there's smoke coming out of the side. I can't help Guy until I fix my own home. Okay, so like your issue was homeless. Are these Canadian homeless people? Maybe let's take care of your own first. Then I can go help Guy's house 4 doors down. I gotta fix my own crap first, man, because I can't just have Guy coming on in or help him, because as I go to help Guy, my roof falls in. Then what?
Yeah.
I
feel we can't talk about that because then the race and the racist card gets thrown around. Like these people need help. But and not to throw my tinfoil hat on, but I will. I feel to me like, because this is happening kind of all over the world, these mass immigration or import, I don't know what you want to call it, but all this movement of people from other countries, it's happening all over the world. And I can't help but feel like, is there an agenda behind this? Like, well, how is this happening all at the same time? Like you saw it in Europe where you had all these migrants take over, and now you're seeing it in the States and in Canada. Like, why is this happening? Like, who's allowing this, right?
Well, the high ups are allowing it. And if you just looked at it like a fifth grader, so you got a 10-year-old kid, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, they're trying to bring in these other people to your classroom. Okay, but then there's not enough room for the original people in the classroom. Okay, well, you're going to have to move out then, but we're bringing in these new people. So you're trying to replace them. And that becomes the tinfoil hat of replacement theory. But if you're looking at it as a 10-year-old and just explain it like a classroom, how could you not think that? I mean, and I feel bad for these other countries that don't have it as well off as Canada and America, but you got to fix your own classroom. You got to fix your own house first before you can help out the others.
You just mentioned replacement theory, and I've never heard of that until now. But what came to mind for me when you said that is, is that the country's government allowing it to get votes so they stay in power? Because, the Democrats or the liberals in Canada, they let us move here, so we're going to vote for them. They've got them in their pocket. Or is it maybe other countries who want to just cause a disruption in our own countries, our cultures, and so they send people like foreigners in to kind of, because in Canada we have tons of protests and things like that, right? I'm sure you guys have it in the States too. But so do you think people are sending people to our countries to cause issues within our own country, like civil unrest and things like that, or do you think it's our own government that's doing it?
Yes, I think you're right on
our own government.
I think it's both. I mean, why just look at it like I always say, like the old saying is KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. If we look at it from like a fifth grader with just your average IQ, okay, and country A is saying, hey, we're open, and country B says, good, we'll push all of our people over to you, good or bad, we don't care, because then we can infiltrate you, okay? Yeah. And then country A says, well, all my normal citizens, quote unquote, normal citizens, they don't like that. So they're not going to vote for us anymore. So yeah, we'll take these guys, but long as they know to vote. And, oh, by the way, we'll give them housing, we'll give them food, we'll give them money each month. And it's like, well, if I'm someone coming in to country A and they're giving me $9,000 a month and a house, like, yeah, you got my vote. Hell yes. As long as this keeps up, why wouldn't I vote for you?
Yeah, I think we're giving people like thousands of dollars a month in Canada to come over. I think the number is like $3,000 a month. And I'm like, holy crap, 9,000 for you guys?
Yeah.
Man, I don't make that working full times. Like, how are people that just move over getting this? Like,
good question, Guy. I mean, that's the thing. I've heard so many people say, like in your shoes, saying, "Hey, why don't I just take a plane to Haiti and then come over illegally and I'll get $9,000?"
That's genius. I think you just found a hack right there. That's a glitch in the system. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. It's a little bit off topic, but I'm hearing now that there's people coming to Canada so they can cross the border of the States because we don't have a border wall. It's just like a clearance cut through the forest and they just walk on and over. So maybe there's something into that, move to
the same thing out in Texas and what was it? Arizona and Southern California. There was a big report today from San Diego saying how many people have come over and they've been just flying them in. Because I was talking to someone where it said, well, more liberal friend of mine goes, well, how did the Haitians know to go to Springfield, Ohio? Did they walk all the way there? No, man, they were literally flown from Haiti to Springfield, Ohio. Like that was this particular spot they chose. And if you're a resident of Springfield, Ohio, you're looking around and all of a sudden they dropped 1/3 of your population in from Haiti. You'd be, guys, I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care how nice they are. That's 20,000 additional people. Where are they going to school? What about the hospitals? What about the roads? Do they have the same values as us? I mean, I don't like having house guests in my own house for like more than 2 days, and then you're going to get, 20,000 people coming into your city.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, I think JD Vance just made that comment actually. Like, yeah, sure, the number of illegal crossing has gone down, but it's because the Democrats are just flying them to ports of entry and making it easier for them to immigrate. And then he was like, well, that's great, but I don't want the borders are that makes it easier for illegals to come across. Like, that's not her job.
Yeah, and it's weird how they always just dump them into like Springfield, Ohio, where you never see them go up to like Martha's Vineyard, when they had, like super rich upstate New York. And they did that. And they dropped Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. He shipped 50 of them up there to Martha's Vineyard. That's where Obama lives. Wealthy. We're talking $20, $30 million homes. Within one day, there was only 50 of them, not 20,000, 50 of them. 50 of them, they had them bust out. And everyone was like, oh, we love you, Te amo, more power to you, yay, stay. But everyone, yay, stay, but don't stay here. Like all the uber rich, we want you. Racism has no place here, blah, blah, equal rights for everyone, but just don't stay here. Don't stay at my house. That's why the whole hypocritical thing with all the celebrities and the wealthy, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I just saw John Legend, the singer and actor or whatever. He's on all the commercials. He's saying a whole bunch of R&B songs where he put out a 5-minute video saying to Springfield, like, hey, you got to love everyone, love all. Dude, you live in an $18 million home. How many migrants have you taken in? I would bet there's locks on your doors. I would bet there's probably a gate around your house and or community. So yeah, that's really easy to say. It's real easy to say, take them all, bring them all in, bring them all, just not in my house. Like, I'm more over the fact that, okay, if you're saying yes, bring them in, and you're housing, let's say John Legend takes 100 in, okay, I'll listen to him, because at least he's got some skin in the game, basically.
Yeah. That just triggered a thought for me, and it's kind of interesting. So I was kind of questioning to myself, why would these rich celebrities be okay with having all these people coming over? Because you got to think eventually there's just going to be an overwhelming amount of people, and the celebrities are going to get taken over. Maybe, I don't know. No. But then it led me to thinking about how there's a town in Quebec that literally has like a place where you have to scan a QR code to leave the town. Like, they're setting these border patrols. Right. And if you don't scan your QR code and pay your $30 fee to leave the town, you get fined $1,000. Jesus. And I'm thinking, like, are we kind of moving towards like setting borders within our own country now, where like the ultra rich are going to live here and the poor are going to like districts, right? Do you think that's kind of what's happening here? Like,
100%. It's why do the celebrities promote this? Because it doesn't affect them. Okay, it doesn't affect them. Like, if the cost of shampoo raised to $1,000 a bottle, I can support that. Right? It doesn't affect me at all.
They still buy shampoo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't buy shampoo. Obviously, it's one of those things that has zero effect on me. So why do they virtue signal? Oh, come on, come all, we love you all, bring them all in, because it doesn't affect them at all. It has no effect on them. They still have their private jets, their mansions, their Rolls Royce, their Bentleys. They still have their 7 assistants go out and get their dry cleaning and their clothing and their food, and they're not going to work out in the factories. They're just flying around on private jets. So yeah, go ahead, make shampoo $1 million a bottle. I could care less.
I just feel like there's going to come a point, though, where it's going to be too much and people are going to be hungry. They're going to be cold. They're going to be on the streets looking for a place to live. And they're going to say, hey, that John Legend guy, he's got that $18 million house. He's got a lot of rooms in there, and he's got a pool, and he's got a sauna and a cold plunge. Why don't we pay him a visit and just move in? Why should one guy or his family live in a big building like that when we can fit 100 people in there?
Like, well, that's the same exact thing during the whole 2020 with the BLM riots and all that. And they're defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. And who was saying that? People that have private security. It's like, yeah, you got to take, because all these guys, I guarantee John Legend has private security 24 hours a day where he's traveling around. He's got private security. Wonderful. Okay. That more power to you. You made a lot of money. I love it. I'm a capitalist, but don't put others down for wanting security when they can't afford private security. It's going to come to a pass. I think you're right. And I think that's the tipping point where people are getting so fed up of, oh, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this. And even during the debate where none of the big issues were hit, like even the first question was, are Americans today better off than they were 3.5 years ago? And she didn't answer that. And the David Muir didn't push back at all to say, you didn't, honey, you didn't answer that. Why? That's when she's like, I was raised in a middle-class family, blah, blah, blah. As her dad is a professor and her mom was a professor. FYI, both of your parents are professors, you're not middle class. All right, it's just not happening. That's a very high-paying job. They're making at least $100 grand each, probably. And it's one of those things that I think people want the main nuts and bolts of what's out there. How much is gas? How much is food? How much is just simple, basic economics? Is my life better? Things like that. That's all people want. They don't want all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just, what are the basics? Like, have you gone to the grocery store? Have you filled up your gas tank? You know, are you able to do this? Have you been on a plane lately?
All things that are essentials for the everyday person, but maybe millionaires take for granted because they probably don't even do their own grocery shopping. You know what I mean?
Trust me, John Legend is not going down Albertsons.
Something popped in my head again when we were talking about, you know, private security and things like that. So all these rich people, you're right, they have their own private securities, but at the same time, what's going on over there, Rubio?
Well, my mic fell off. You didn't even tell me. Can you hear me?
This is a professional show, man. You can't be doing this on.
Well, what the hell? It fell off. I got too excited. This is why I can't have a mic like yours, because I move my damn hands so much. I'm doing all this, and I ended up knocking the damn mic.
Yeah. What I was thinking is, I think it's kind of the same debate in the States about, you know, gun control. I know in Canada, the liberals are always looking to criminalize more and more types of weapons, but it seems like, you know, those special securities that people can afford to pay for, they kind of have, how can I say, exemptions. They can have the bigger guns, they can have the fancy tools, right? So do you think there's a reason for that too? Like, you want to de-arm the general population, but keep weapons in only the hands of a certain people? Like,
well, 100%. A society without weapons is a controlled society. I mean, look what happened in Australia when they took all their weapons, you know, 10 years ago, whatever. And now during COVID, they were literally having lockdowns where they were throwing people in camps. Like, that's a fact that you can look up, and no one can rebel against it because no one has any guns. And it's one of those things that the whole gun control thing is just it's a smoke and mirrors thing, because, gun control is the number one thing. You need to ban guns. Number one, criminals don't follow the laws. So all you're doing is taking guns away from the good people, not the bad people. And if gun control worked, how come it doesn't work in, say, a city like Chicago has the most gun damage of any city, I think, in America per weekend? There's like 50 shootings and 15 deaths per weekend, but no one says anything. And if you've ever been to Chicago, every storefront, every window has a sticker, guns not allowed. Oh, okay. Now, do you think the criminals walking up to the gun? Oh, well, hold on. I got to go put my gun back in my car because it says guns not allowed. No, criminals are criminals. Hence the term criminal. They don't follow the law. So what all you're doing is taking guns away from the good guys, not the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to ask this, because we've covered a lot of topics here, and I feel like the overarching topic is that the world's going a little bit cuckoo. Like, things are nuts. So how are you so deeply involved in this day to day with, you know, I should know what you call your Rubio.
Rubio.
Yes, thank you. See, I've edited your show and I still forgot. But we do a rundown every day. How do you not go crazy? Like, how does your head not just spin out of control? What does that mean? Where is this going to lead? Because that's why I had to get off social media, man. Because when I start hearing about nuclear war and China coming over to Canada and stealing your Ebola virus, and I'm just like, what the hell? So how do you stay sane? Because, you know, the overall topic, the show is centered around mental health and things like that. So I have to ask, how do you not go crazy?
You know what? I usually try to take off at least 1 or 2 days from social media per week. Usually that's on the weekend, where I just kind of detox a little bit and kind of go back and, okay, just let me hit some main topics, just see what's going on. If there's anything big, like El Trump almost getting assassinated again. But what I do is I just try to make fun of the whole thing. Like, it's just, like, after the debate where Joey B is just walking around, he has no idea what he's doing, and everyone's on the left is like, oh my God, we had no idea how bad he was. And I had one of my good friends who's a liberal say, I had no idea he was so bad. I go, I've been sending you clips for 5 or 3.5 years showing you that he's got nothing upstairs, and it's not his fault. The dude's 80 years old. He's ran the race. You know, go to the corner, put a blanket on your knees, eat some, drink some hot chocolate, have a sip of tea or biscuit or whatever. I don't care what the hell you call it, but it's one of those things that to me, I just mock it. Like, you got to be kidding! This is so stupid. It's like, it's just funny to me, and that's the way I keep my mental health cool with it. Is I focus on my friends and my family. I love where I live. It's a lot of like-minded people. I live in a very, very good community. I love where it's beautiful where I live. I've got great friends and I got great family, but it's one of those where I just look and I kind of just laugh it off. Like, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. And it's one of those that if you take it too seriously, it'll swallow you, and you can't allow it to. You just have to look at it as, well, if people have gotten this dumb, we're just gonna have to ride this wave, and I'm gonna just have to enjoy where I'm at, or move smaller town to where it doesn't impact me as much, so to speak. So, like, if I lived in a big city, I don't think I would be as quote unquote sane, because I have a lot of my friends that live in bigger cities, like in Los Angeles and things like that, and especially like during the Rona, when COVID was happening. Where I live in Idaho, it's very rural. And so there was no rules where I lived. Like, they tried to do a mask mandate in the city, and the cops literally within an hour said, yeah, we're not enforcing that. Like, my kids were out of school for like 3 weeks, and they never wore masks after that. And I even told my kid, if anyone tries to tell you to wear it, you're not wearing it. I'll get the suspension. We're not doing that. And the district kind of came together. So when here, like, I never wore a mask in Idaho where I lived, not one time. And so if I ever got in a plane and had to wear one, I would almost hyperventilate because I'm not used to it. And I didn't know the rules of anything, because where I live, it was like the 1800s. And then I'd go to, say, Los Angeles or something and try to get into a hotel elevator. And my buddy goes, oh, you can't go in there right now. I go, why? He goes, well, there's other people in the elevator. I go, yeah, that's the way elevators work, man. You get a bunch of people and they go up or down. That's literally its job. And he's like, well, there's new rules. I go, who says? Is there a cop here? What's going on? Or, you know, like when I'd go out to eat in LA, and you'd have to wear a mask walking, but then when you sat down, you could take it off to eat. And I go, is this a joke? I would literally say, are we being filmed? Are we being punked? Like, how can you tell me that high is bad, low is good? I go, that's what I said. Sub 60 should never wear a mask, because he's at table height the whole time. Yeah. He's Rona free. So I just mock it mostly. I just make fun of it, like, this is so stupid.
Yeah. So two things came up for me while you were talking. The first one being, I mean, it's cool for us to be here talking about it, joking, you know, having a good time and doing that around our friends. But, you know, when the cameras are off and Rubio's all by himself in his head, do you not have any concerns or worries at all about the state of the world and where this could lead? Like, or do you just try to live in the moment and not think about it?
No, I definitely do for my children. I'm very concerned for my children. Me, I'm not saying that I've lived my life. I'm ready to retire. I'm going to die any second now. But I'm an adult. I've gone through my ups and downs, and I still will have more ups and downs. But I've lived a good chunk of my life. Okay, I'm more concerned for my 3 boys. I have a 23-year-old, a 22-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And I'm more concerned about their future. Are they going to be able to afford a home? Are they going to have to raise in the insanity of tampons in men's restrooms? And that's one of those things where I talk to all 3 of my boys about this all the time. Like, this is crazy. Let's talk about this. What do you think about this? And I'll let them have their own opinion. And that's where, like, my show originally got started. Well, the Decade Show, where we have someone in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, trying to get as many people with different beliefs to talk about things. Because I asked my middle son, I go, if you're running for president, what would be your main policy? What would be your thing? And he said, climate change. And I go, what? He says, yeah, climate change. And we don't ever talk about climate change. And he goes, yeah, it's such a big deal. The climate's changing and blah, 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 and the world's getting hotter, blah, blah. And I go, you ever heard of ozone layer? He goes,
yeah, we heard about that when we were younger.
Exactly.
The hole in the ozone, yeah.
And I go, yeah, you never have, huh? And I go, when I was your age, I go, that was the big thing. Like, literally, girls could not use certain types of hairspray because it was blowing a hole in the ozone layer, and the SPF 7000 you're putting on your skin wasn't going to work anymore. And I go, the fact that you haven't heard about it, all they do is they tend to change it every couple of years. I mean, you can look at clips of Al Gore saying by 2012, the world is ending, blah, blah, blah. We're going to be in a polar freeze. It's 2024, dude. What happened? You know, and it's one of those things that you can keep adjusting it all you want. But to answer your question, the long answer, I'm more concerned for my kids, and that's why I live where I live. And if I had to, I'd go more rural. But if I lived in a big city and just hear the things that my buddies have to go through with schooling and, people robbing stores. I have a buddy that lives in Seattle, Washington, about 5 hours west of me, and he'll call me at least once a week. Went to the store. A guy was just walking out with a whole shopping cart of groceries because if it's under $900, they can't do anything. Or his car's been broken into 5 times in the past 5 months in his driveway. And the cops say, "Did anyone get hurt?" "No, no one got hurt." Click. And so it's just, I go, you got to get out of there, man, because you're not living the way you're meant to be lived. Or your life's not meant to be lived.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that rounds off like perfectly what I wanted to touch on too, because we're talking about, I said we can joke about it, but there's some serious stuff happening. And you're talking about the elevators wearing masks and stuff like that. And then you got guys like Fauci kind of like coming out now saying, "Oh yeah, I was kind of just shooting from the hip. I didn't really know what I was talking about. The 6-foot rule, I just kind of made that up." Like the whole thing's unraveling now. And we trusted this guy. We trusted the organization, so I feel like it's hard to trust people because we put people in power that, yeah, we listen to what they say, but they might not always have our best intentions in mind. Yeah, interest in mind, right? And then the other thing I'm seeing, because you're talking about concern for your children, and I see that as well. I feel this may be a personal belief. I don't know. Maybe you can share what you think, but I feel like, let's say hundreds of years ago, values carried over generation to generation. Like it took a long time before things changed. And now I feel like we're seeing a turnover in values and belief generation after the next. Now it's such a rapid turnover, and we're having these conflicts between generations. Like the younger population kind of want, like you said, climate change, LGBTQ rights, all these stuff. Whereas the older generation, we might want lower taxes and stability and good food prices, things like that. So do you think this is just kind of a byproduct of where we are through just technology and science and the way we share information? Or do you think this is designed by, the elites to kind of get us all in different mindsets? We're busy fighting each other instead of focusing on the issues.
I think the answer is both. I think the main issue, and I think the elites want to get rid of it, is the strong family atmosphere. And I'm not saying that everyone has to have a mom and a dad. I'm saying that if you have a strong family unit, I was raised by a single mom. She did a very, very good job. But I also had uncles and cousins and aunts that everyone was kind of in on Team Rubio, where, I knew, and you'd have the fear of God. If I messed up, my ass was getting beat. It may not have been for my mom. It could have been for my cousin. It could have been for my uncle. It could have been for my aunt. It could have been for my grandpa. It's one of those things. But right now, I think people are so worried about, like you said, about being called a racist or being, "Oh, you're sexist." Okay. "Oh, you're being mean." And I think sometimes, you know what? It's okay to be mean. It's okay. Yes, you're acting like a jackass. Here's why you're acting like a jackass. Either you fix it or you're going to lose friends and family because you're acting like a jackass. You choose the road you'd like to go. Would you like to go to Jackassville, or would you like to go to You're Not a Jackassville? And I think that's the big thing that the family atmosphere can bring of, strong father, strong mother. If you don't have both, that's fine. Okay. You can still become a human being. You just need someone in your life that's going to be able to beat your ass. And I think mentally and physically, I think there needs to be some punishments, and not everything is just butterflies and sunshine.
Got to set some guidance and some boundaries, I guess, eh?
100%. And the earlier you do it, the better it is. One of my favorite stories with my oldest, he was probably 5 or 6 years old, and we were watching cartoons on the morning on a Saturday. And I told him, "Hey, Cruz, you got to go get in the shower." And he looks at me and goes, "No." And you could see it was like he was trying to test me. And I just stopped for 5 minutes. "Hey, Cruz, second time, get in the shower." And he looks dead at me. "No." And I go, "You got one more shot, bud." So about 2 minutes later, I go, "Get in the shower." And he looks deadpan at me. "No." I grabbed him by the back of the neck. He was in like his underoos or whatever the hell they call them. I drug him to the front yard. This was probably like September, so beginning of the school year. In his underwear, I turn on the hose in the front yard. People are driving by, and I'm hosing him as hard as I can down. And I said, "You will listen to me from this point on, or I will do this every single time. And I'm like, I've got the water going, and he's just sitting there. People are driving by. I'm waving. I'm like this. From that point on, if I said get in the shower, he was like Usain Bolt to the shower.
Yeah. And then people that would say that was child abuse, right?
And I'd say, okay.
So that's troubling for me. At what point does a parent like lose their control over how to raise their children? Like, who gets to step in and say you shouldn't be raising your child that way? Like,
well, that's where you see, especially where we are, the government wants more control of your kid. Yeah. Where like in California, they were saying the teacher, principals at schools didn't have to tell the parent if their kid all of a sudden Guy comes in and says, I want you to call me Janet. It's like, no, dude, you kind of need to tell the parent that. That's kind of a code red here. But see, that's why where I live, because there's a small school district. I know school board members. I know principals. I mean, I could text the principal right now if I wanted to. I live, not even 1,000 yards from the school. They know I'm available at any point for anything. And I go in hot right out of the gate with the teachers. I go, if my kid ever has any trouble, you text me or call me. I will be here in 45 seconds to take care of him. And because being a former teacher and being just who I am, I want them to know I have their back, and my kid will behave. If he doesn't behave, I will make him behave, and it'll be a very swift punishment. And if you don't like it, too bad. Take me to court. I don't care.
No, I think that's good that you back up the teachers like that, because I think teachers have a hard job trying to look after 30-some kids. A lot of times I feel like they're probably raising them too, because the parents kind of just brush them off to school and, okay, they're your problem now. So I think that's great of you to say, hey, man, like,
remember I was a 6th grade history teacher for 8 years.
Yeah. So you've experienced what it's like to have to look after other people's kids, and I'm sure you've seen the whole spectrum of well-behaved and troublemakers.
Oh yeah.
All right, man, we're getting close to an hour. So one more question. Do you have a prediction for anything that might happen between now and the time of the election?
I would guarantee you can put money on it. El Trump there will be another assassination attempt. And my second prediction, and I've said this before, I think that Joey B is going to step down. There's, I think, 48 days left. I think he's going to step down and say Kamala is the president now for the next X amount of days. So she is the first Black female president, and she's going to get a boost, because that's going to give her a little boost. Whenever they do something, that's my prediction. I've been saying that for about 6 months now.
Well, maybe because she's Black, that might give her an edge. But in Canada, we had a female prime minister for a little while and didn't last very long. As soon as they found a replacement, that was it. So it was cool. We were so progressive for a couple months, and then that was that. I'm going to predict. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm going to say the lack of interviews and all those things, and public speaking, and how she doesn't do any press, conferences, anything like that. I think they know it's constant smoke and mirrors. Like, look over here where I do this. Look over here where I do this. It's not like El Trump was on Gutfeld last night. He's been on Jake Paul's podcast. I mean, he's all over the damn place.
Yeah, so how do you protect a guy like that? Because that's going to be my prediction. He's going to have to start going around in like the Pope mobile. You know what I mean?
I said that yesterday. He needs a Pope mobile, and just, hey, I'll field calls from inside on a microphone.
There you go. All right, Rubio. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Where can people find out more about you?
Rubio at therubiomethod.com, or just go to therubiomethod.com. We'll have a good time. I put out daily rundowns with Rubios. They're like 3 to 4 minutes, and it's just me hitting 5 quick topics, and very, very easy. It's on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, all that, YouTube. So I'm all over the place, man.
And you're live tonight at what, 5 p.m.?
5 p.m. Pacific time. So in 2 hours.
Perfect. Well, we'll tell people to tune in, man.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
Focus up. Hey, man, zoom in. Hey. Welcome. My name is Chris Rubio of the Rubio Method. Soak it in. Wear it as a nice sweatshirt, a nice yellow sweatshirt. See if it fits. And it may be something you say, okay, I'm listening to you, but I don't really like it. Not for me. What the hell are you thinking? You have no idea what you're talking about. You have issues because of your bad taste.
Hey, Trippers, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Rubio, and that little promo there at the end, too. Rubio actually gave me the opportunity to put that together. That's something I worked on. It was a lot of fun. And like I said, I got to see really the evolution of his show from his early days to what he's achieved now and what he's working on with, covering pop culture and recent events and things like that. So that was really fun. Little side story about Rubio. I kind of look up to him as like my authenticity and confidence coach or mentor, however you want to call it. When I first met him, I want to say about 2.5 years ago ish. That was during the unmentionable NGBN. What was it called? There was a conference now that the name escapes me right now, but he was one of the speakers at this conference. And through that, I was able to reach out to him. And I sent him this long email one day, basically telling him that, I do have this belief. I've always had this belief within me that anything is possible and I'm capable of achieving anything. But I haven't felt like I've achieved anything of significance since I was a kid. Like growing up, I was a good student. I would win awards. I was an Army cadets. I would win awards. I would play sports. I would win awards. And through my 20s and 30s, I felt like I kind of didn't really accomplish anything meaningful. I just kind of, joined the rat race, so to speak. And I was telling him that although I still had this belief in me that anything was possible, I questioned why I still felt that way about me. Like, what have I done to prove that I'm capable of doing what I feel I'm capable of doing? So I had this doubt. And anyways, Chris wrote back, and yeah, he's been, like I said, he's been a source of inspiration for, courage and authenticity and just being myself. So thank you for that, Chris. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for, the support you've given me these past 2 years. But enough of the mushy stuff. I want to move on to kind of what I've been working on for myself. That's going to be like the personal people story segment, so to speak. So for those of you who follow my Instagram, you might have noticed that I used to post a lot about my fitness journey and about my fitness classes and things like that. And in recent weeks, I haven't. Reason for that is that I was talking to my coach, and we identified where some of my pain points were, and we decided to put more attention on those areas. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to share my wellness wheel that he and I put together. Perfect. It worked. Yeah. So him and I, my coach and I sat down, and we identified where I felt I was in all of these different areas of my life, right? So my physical well-being, my home environment, my spirituality, my career, finances, recreation, social well-being, mental well-being, and yeah, back to physical well-being. So as for those of you who are watching, you can see that my physical well-being was at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I was doing significantly well, right? Because that's where I was putting my attention. However, I was really struggling financially. Like I have it as a 1. And that was causing a lot of stress in my life, right? Not struggling to pay bills and buy groceries and support your kids. It's not a good feeling. So he said to me, well, it's good that you're, putting your attention on your physical well-being, but how about we reel it into maybe a 4, right? Don't give up on it. Reel it into a 4, and then put a little bit more attention on your finances. Try to bring everything to kind of like a base level 5, right? And then let's try to elevate everything together evenly, as opposed to being pulled in all directions. And so that's what I did. And that's why I kind of put the 75 hard challenge to the side right now. It's because I felt that working on making more money is just more important. And that's led to some incredible things. I've reached out to places like Cooney Employment Services looking for work. They had a resume builder that I used, and they also have a job bank that I was able to look through. And that's led me to applying for jobs. And I actually had an interview a couple of weeks ago. Didn't pan out because my full-time job, I work every weekend, and this place where I was having my interview, they needed me to be available on either Saturdays or Sundays. So that didn't work out. But, taking steps. I've also reached out to Columbia Basin Trust. I had a meeting with them, and through that, they were able to connect me to 4 other organizations where I might be able to get information or even financial resources to get better podcasting equipment, maybe even grants to go back to school. So I've got I've got all these opportunities, all these doors opening up in front of me. I even have a meeting scheduled with Rhodes Wellness College here in a couple of days to talk about taking their life coach program. So, as I'm saying, I shifted my attention from working out and going to the gym to trying to find money and advancing, my education. And so that's where things are happening in my life right now, right? So I once I get traction and I start making some money, then I can start again shifting my attention to other things. So the main idea that I want you guys to take out of this is you'll get results where you put your attention. And so for me, I had to step back from fitness, focus on finances, and then I'll revisit all the other things later on. So that's that. The next thing I want to share with you guys is an exercise on cultivating your thoughts. And this ties back to the triangle of experiences that I shared on the last episode. And it ties into really well, actually, to the story of, the way I discovered that the nonprofit organization that I was helping decided to they were done. They weren't moving forward with their project. And they announced it on Facebook and how it made me feel. So, last week in my Mindspace group, right? Again, for those of you who are interested, it's available to BC residents, and it's classes on cognitive behavioral therapy. You do need a doctor's prescription to attend. Shouldn't be too difficult. There's a $65 entry fee, but you do get the money back if you do, I think, 6 out of the 8 classes. So, there's incentive there to finish, and you can just kind of recycle that $65 to enroll in classes. So it's not that big of a hurdle to sign up. Let me share the exercise with you guys here. Right here. Perfect. So here they talk about, the kernel of truth, and they want you to look at a seed. And basically inside of your kernel, you got, the seed in the center, and then you got the shell on the outside. And they define it here as the kernel of truth, right? The situation that you're faced with, and then the shell of interpretation. So the situation that you're faced with is the seed, like I just said, but the shell is your brain trying to make sense of this situation based on past experiences, right? So this is a story you're telling yourself. It's not the truth. And quickly, just to tie into that, I'm going to switch screens here because I love this image that depicts truth. I think I have to go here in Windows. And of course, I don't have it up. There we go. Right? So an observer that's looking at this object from the right sees a square shadow, and the observer that looks at this object from the left sees a circle shadow. But the truth is that it's a cylinder, right? And that's what I'm trying to say here, is that the situation, the truth is that it's a cylinder, but our perception is what we tell ourselves based on our past experiences. So depending on how you look at this is what your perception is. I'm going to stop sharing that. And so to go back to the kernel of truth and how it relates to my experience with the nonprofit I was working for, the truth was that there was an announcement made that it was decided they weren't moving forward with the project, right? It was done. My shell of interpretation, the way I saw it is, oh, well, why was I not warned before this was made public? Like I felt I deserved to find out, not through social media, but in person. And so I started to have my own perceptions, right? I started to look at past experiences and try to make sense as to why I wasn't spoken to. And that's dangerous. And this is where you have to pause, because it's easy to just believe your perceptions if you're not paying attention to your thoughts. And then you're probably going to react in an inappropriate manner. And so if you remember in the triangle of experiences, it talks about the pause between your thoughts. So when you're faced with a situation, learn not to react or to just make assumptions based on your perceptions, but learn to pause, breathe, and just really think about, okay, what am I faced with? What's real, and what am I applying to it? That's kind of just my brain coming up with stories. And when you do that, then you can then respond appropriately, and you're unlikely to make the problem bigger. Something that one of my classmates in the program brought up is to look at it like popcorn, right? So you got the seed in the middle and you got a shell, but once it pops, you got the white fluffy stuff. And I like that because you can kind of see it as another level of perception. So let's say you're just listening to gossip, or you're just talking to somebody and you're taking in their perception of an event. So you yourself haven't even witnessed the situation. You're just taking in somebody else's version of it. So there's already that filter of their perception, and then you're putting your own perceptions to it. And that's where things get really muddy, right? So it's why it's important to just really focus, okay, what's the facts and what is just fluff? And my coach, Diana Noble, used to call it, truth, and truth with a capital T, right? So truth as in your perceptions, and then truth, capital T, being universal truth, which would be the cylinder, the cylinder versus, the square, the circle on the wall. So, I guess one last thing I wanted to add to that. If you guys are interested in reading and practicing mindfulness exercises, I would recommend the book The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That was recommended to me again by Diana Noble. And one of the exercises it talks about in that book is, cultivating the garden, which basically means cultivating your thoughts. So it's up to you as the gardener of your mind, when you're faced with a negative thought, to pluck it out like weeds. And if you're faced with a positive thought, to then nourish that thought and allow it to grow. So again, wherever you put your attention, wherever you put your focus, like deciding if I'm going to put my focus on fitnesses or finances, where you put that attention, it's where you're going to take action, and it's what you're going to nourish and allow to grow. So, I feel like I did all right there. Next thing I want to talk about is a place. This one I struggle with a little bit. I'm always looking for places where people can find healing, mental health information, educational information, things like that. I've talked about Forest Retreat, and I guess this week I'm going to talk about my trip to the Hotsprings earlier this year, because there's some amazing benefits to Hotsprings, and I had nothing else to talk about, so I figured, hey, let's talk about it today. So this here is my Instagram account, and this is a shot of the hot springs where I was. This is halfway Hot Springs in British Columbia. Yeah, this here is the hot spring, and here's the river. I'm gonna play that. Beautiful spot. It was actually kind of busy too for that time of the year. I think this was back in January, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So anyways, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. And yeah, some of the benefits, I'm going to read this off because, again, I'm the student, not the master. But some of the benefits of natural hot springs are relaxation and stress relief. So it helps with circulation and relaxing your muscles, and that also helps you reduce stress. It helps with your skin health. So the minerals in the water, like sulfur, magnesium, and silica, can improve the texture of your skin, and then it can actually pull toxins out of your skin. It helps with pain relief, again, with the minerals like calcium and magnesium. It can help with arthritis, joint pain, muscle soreness, things like that. It says here that soaking in mineral-rich hot springs can help stimulate the production of white blood cells, so it can actually help boost your immune system. It helps with detoxification, so the heat of the water can induce sweating, which helps you purge toxins out of your body. Respiratory benefits. It says here that, breathing in, it says here that high sulfur content in hot springs can benefit the respiratory health by clearing congestion and aiding people who have asthma and bronchitis. Didn't know that. I might want to look a little deeper into that. And then it says it can also improve your sleep. With it says here that the relaxation and improved blood flow associated with soaking in a hot spring can lead to better sleep quality. So yeah, I don't know. I felt great. I had an amazing time just being out in nature. It's quite a ways to get to halfway hot springs. Luckily, it hadn't snowed much that year, so we were able to actually drive down the forestry road to get there. But even then, you've got to hike downhill through the woods and navigate a bit of tricky terrain. The hot springs that were closest to the campsite obviously were full, so we had to travel down the river and find some that were a little bit more isolated. But you know, it's part of the adventure. It makes for the journey, and I had a great time. And I highly suggest you guys check it out. Last thing I want to cover with you guys is the psychedelic segment. I'm going to talk about, RFK Jr. is going to talk a little bit about ayahuasca. The video is about 5 minutes long. And then I'm going to share my experiences with DMT and psilocybin, how they were kind of similar to what he's talking about. And yeah, we'll go from there. So again, this is a YouTube video that I'm sharing. I want to give full credit. Oh, look at that. This is from his actual account. So I want to give full credit to Robert Kennedy Jr. for this. And I will go ahead and subscribe. But yeah, here he talks about ayahuasca. So let's have a listen.
My initial bias about psychedelic drugs is again colored by my experience of being in recovery for 40 years. I don't think that in most cases that we can fix things that are wrong inside of us with things that are outside of us, with all the things that we reach for when we feel discomfort, whether it's drugs or alcohol or sex or reckless behavior. Particularly people who are prone to addiction are always looking for things outside of them to fill this empty hole that they have inside of them. Having said that, my wife in 2012 took her own life and left me with 6 children. And so all of those kids were at risk at the time. And they all ended up doing really wonderful things with their lives. And one of them was worrying to me because he never processed his mom's death in a way that I could observe. He seemed like a happy kid. He was always smiling. He did get in a lot of fist fights. He became a boxer and he won a lot of tournaments, and then he became a hockey player. But everything he did was a little bit of violence too. And it made me worried about him. About 5 years ago, he was very self-contained. He never talked about what was going on inside of him. And he went to Patagonia to kayak a whitewater river. And I asked this guy to put my son up for a couple of days while he was waiting for his trip to start. The night my son arrived there, that guy said to him, "I'm doing an ayahuasca trip tonight." And he said, "God sent you boys to me," because he was doing it with 20 Puente Indians. And he said, "I was praying to God that he would send me a gringo to do this with." And so my kid ended up doing this. And he had this experience where after he drank the ayahuasca, he felt himself sinking through all the geological strata of the earth. And he could look at all of it. He told me he could look at all the folds of stone and geology. And he had a total understanding of all of the processes that had laid them out for the eons. He ended up being propelled out of the other side of the earth and then floating through space for what he experienced as hundreds of years. And he would focus on a distant planet and be transported there. And each planet, he would have an adventure. And at the end of the adventure, there would be a lesson, a moral lesson that he would learn, that he was supposed to remember. The last planet he visited, his mother was there. And she started passing through him in and out of him again and again. And every time she did that, he felt all these experiences of forgiveness, of love, of understanding, of comprehension, of empathy and compassion. And when he came back from that trip, he was completely changed. He was very open about talking about his feelings. He was on a real spiritual quest. The reason I really know that it changed him is he started taking out the garbage and and doing the dishes. And he's done the dishes constantly without ever being asked since then. He's a 24-year-old kid. So you know that's a miracle. So that opened my mind to the possibility that there may be, something that I didn't understand or that was outside of my kind of bubble of prejudices. And then I have a friend who's a Navy SEAL who had severe PTSD, and he went to Costa Rica and had the same kind of experience. And I had a couple of other friends who were in the NFL, and they also had severe brain injuries and depression, terrible, terrible depression. And the same thing happened. And then I looked at Michael Pollan's documentary, which I think is on Netflix. I think the third show is on Psilocybin. And there's a kid on that show who had severe OCD. He literally could not go out of his house. And he did one psilocybin trip and it was completely gone. So my mind is open to the idea that, there may be things that I don't know about and that people ought to have the freedom and the liberty to experiment with these things. I like what you said at the outset, which is, we know the capacity of the pharmaceutical industry to come and capture this if they see that there's money in it, and then to turn it into something very, very bad and to promote it in ways that it shouldn't be promoted. My inclination would be to make this available at least in therapeutic settings and maybe more generally, but in ways that would discourage the corporate control and exploitation of it.
All right. Yeah, so just to get right into it, what he's saying about So yeah, just to get right into it, what he says about the experiences his son had with ayahuasca, I've never personally done ayahuasca. It's definitely on my list of things to do. But I've had experiences with psilocybin mushrooms. I've had experiences with acid. I never call it LSD because I don't believe that actual pure LSD is readily available out there. So I probably had some sort of, variant of that. And I've also had experiences with DMT. DMT would probably be the closest thing to ayahuasca. It was smoked. So I did it twice in one night. I didn't have that breakthrough experiences that a lot of people talk about. I didn't shoot out into space and see planets and meet entities on either occasions. My first attempt, maybe the dose wasn't high enough. I don't know, but I don't know. It was kind of just like a very rapid and very intense mushroom trip. And if you've never experienced that, it's hard to really explain what that's like. But I basically just saw a lot of colors, a lot of cool things, but I didn't really have many experiences. I could still hear people talking in the room. There were a lot of distractions. I think the setting just wasn't right. So I don't know. It didn't really kind of lead to anything. After that, I waited about an hour and a half or so. Tried it again. I think I did a little bit more. And again, I didn't have that breakthrough experience, but I did experience something at that point. Just to give you guys a little bit of context, this was after I'd lost my job and, my home burning down, all that stuff. And this is the point where I had to actually move out of my hometown where I'd been for 27 years looking for work somewhere else. And I was in the process of moving, and I had to go to court basically to see if I was going to get custody of my girls or if my girls were going to stay with their mom. And it was very stressful for me. And when I did that second DMT experience, when I had that second DMT experience, what I witnessed or what I felt was this motherly presence, right? So I was kind of like a fetus in a womb. That's the best way I can explain. Like I was just like this little baby in the womb, and I just had like this motherly presence kind of like caressing me and cradling me, just saying, hey man, it's going to be okay. What's meant to happen is going to happen. Don't worry. It's going to be fine. So that was kind of cool. That was the extent of my DMT experience. I had one pretty crazy psilocybin experience soon after I lost my home to wildfires, and I was in court trying to enforce 50-50 parenting of my kids. It was another stressful time. I don't remember the amount of mushrooms that I did that night. Typically I would do anywhere from 3 grams to 10 grams on occasions. 10 grams is a lot. Like 5 grams is considered the heroic dose, and that's the dose that Terence McKenna would suggest that you do if you want to have one of them journeys. I probably didn't have 10 grams that night. I might have had somewhere between 3 and 5, but I was in bed with my partner, and at one point I just became overwhelmed with emotions, and I started to hyperventilate, and I started to cry, and I just started to sob uncontrollably. And my partner looked at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." I'm sure I looked in distress, but it just felt like I was purging all these negative emotions, negative feeling. It almost felt like I had like black smoke rolling off of me. And although I'm sure it looked terrifying from, an observer, I'm hyperventilating, I'm crying, and I'm just kind of, I don't know, maybe looking a little possessed, but it felt euphoric. It just felt like I was releasing all this tension and stuff. So that was another one of my experiences. I mean, I've had a few experiences. I'm not going to share them all on here, but I'm sure they'll all come out at some point. But it's just to say that I see a lot of potential in these psychedelic drugs. I'm not an expert. I've never studied them. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a doctor. But I'm just a guy who went through some crap, tried the pharmaceutical route, Abilify, Vyvanse, Sublinox, like I don't know, all these different drugs. I did all these different things, and I felt it made my life worse. And when I did mushrooms, I would have these experiences, and being able to kind of look at past situation, like I've discussed this before, but as an observer, as opposed to being engaged in a situation, being able to look back and seeing things from a different perspective is a big benefit, because then you can say, oh man, like I could have handled that situation better. And it allows you to kind of change the way that you interact in the world moving forward. And he talks about, RFK talks about finding compassion, finding love. That's true. One of the things that I discovered through my experiences is that, yeah, I'd been in abusive relationships, and that definitely played an impact on me. But I also, at one point, like, I would be the abuser as well. And that kind of helped me take ownership of my own actions, and instead of just playing the victim and justifying why on occasion I might not act, in the best of ways. Take ownership of that and just learn to be a better person. And it's through psychedelics that I discovered that. So yeah, there's lots of benefits to psychedelics. I believe. I'm hoping that someday I'll be able to do psychedelic assisted therapy and things like that. I think it's very interesting stuff. I'd love to work with a professional, but until then, I'll just keep bringing you guys information on it and sharing it with you, and keep learning. So that wraps up episode 18, my interview with Chris Rubio. And hope you guys learned something. I hope you're taking away something that's beneficial to you that you can take and apply into your life. And we'll see you next time. And I appreciate you. Take care.